Greetings. Thank you for joining today's webinar, Load Balancing 101, From the Basics to Load Balancing with 360 Visibility. My name is Rochelle Wheeler, and I am joined today by Principal Solutions Engineer Kurt Young. Before we begin, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping items. There's a questions panel located in the upper right portion of your screen. You may need to expand that panel by either clicking the plus sign or the down arrow to see its full view. We will take questions at the end of this presentation. You are encouraged to submit those questions via the questions panel at any time. Today's session is being recorded and the recording will be made available at its conclusion. I will now hand today's presentation over to Kurt. Kurt?
Thanks, Rochelle. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. As Rochelle pointed out, I'm Kurt Young. I'm a solutions engineer here at Progress, and I lead our technical product marketing team within the infra products. Load balancing, or more specifically, Progress LoadMaster, right, is one of those products within our infrastructure offerings, and the reason why I'm here today to talk about it. So again, great to be here to present the Load Balancing 101 and talk about the value that a load balancer brings to application delivery, and even really more excited to present the load balancing with 360 visibility. So yeah, let's jump right into it. In any of the webinars I present, I always like to start with this Progress portfolio slide, and not to call out each and every product, but more to show the breadth of products that we offer, right? In this webinar, obviously our focus is on the Progress Kemp LoadMaster, but I'll also be calling out some of the other products as it relates to the subject of visibility at the very end of the presentation. So stay tuned for that. So we'll start off with the question of why load balancing. And whenever I answer this question, I like to use this simple illustration and talk about what we call the privileged position, right, of the load balancer and where it sits within the infrastructure. Now, this illustration, we only have a single load balancer, but in production environments, right, you typically see a pair of load balancers set up in a HA or high availability configuration so that there's no single point of failure, right? But this privileged position is being right between the clients accessing the application and the application servers themselves. And why that's important is in this position, right, we have the ability to, well, of course, most of the time, traffic to those applications are encrypted. So being in this position, we can decrypt that traffic so we can take necessary actions on it. And we'll get into some of those actions as we go through this first half of the presentation. But it's really no surprise that our main function as a load balancer is, of course, to load balance, right, those connections across the multiple backend systems that run the application. So whether this is a web application or a storage solution or some other workload, right, our number one goal, right, is to ensure that the application or workload, right, is available, and of course, providing the best experience to the users accessing it. So to take the conversation even a step further, although we are a load balancer, the more appropriate name for what we do is really an application delivery controller, or ADC, since we're really doing a whole lot more than just load balancing traffic. And starting off with the availability. With the use of advanced health checking, right, we can clearly determine when a backend system is not doing its job, right, when the application resources fail. The application delivery controller or load balancer, right, can mark that system as down and send all the traffic to the remaining healthy systems seamlessly in most cases, depending on the application, of course, without the user even knowing that a system has failed. We'll just move them right over to another system and they can continue going through the application. Scalability, having the ability to seamlessly, again, add servers when there's a demand for more backend resources, right? And then taking them away when they're no longer required. And all of this done without the user that's accessing that system knowing anything's changing with that publishing of the application. Security, built-in features that help protect applications against attacks, and we'll talk a bit more about this functionality as we go through the presentation. Performance. So clearly, users are not going to use the system if it's slow, right? In this day and age, none of us have the patience to wait for a page to load. So having the ability to optimize the traffic to ensure that users have the best experience is an important job for the load balancer to do. And finally, control. Having the ability to visualize all of this is really key to understanding how the application is performing. Is it healthy? Are we doing the right things to help secure the application? And we'll really get into this the second half of this presentation. On the right side here, this is just a real small subset of the features and functionality that we have to ensure all of this stuff is taking place. So using the LoadMaster web application firewall, right, to help protect those applications from malicious attacks. We have caching and compression to optimize the performance of the traffic to and from the application. There's also times where the traffic needs to be, for a better word, altered, right, in a way to force the application to behave in a certain way. Requests that come from a certain URL should be redirected to a different URL based on some requirements for that application. Even looking at things like simple things like directing all traffic that comes in over HTTP port 80, direct all that to HTTPS port 443, over that secure protocol. Looking back at security, right, with the ability to pre-authenticate users on the load balancer prior to allowing them access to those backend systems. On persistence, right, options for sending traffic from that same user to that same backend system, right, using cookies as an example, if the application requires that. We talked about health checking, right, and this is just not to to check that the system is powered on and running, but the application is running on that system and it's healthy to accept connections. And lastly, right, we have a bunch of ways to distribute that traffic to those backend systems, different algorithms to send the traffic back and properly utilize those resources on those backend systems, right, in a very efficient way. And that's either within a single site or even across sites, right, or clouds, depending on the application needs. And we'll get into that next. So these next three areas are even further, extend the functionality a load balancer or application delivery controller brings to those applications that we're publishing. So we'll start off with the application resilience and performance. Now, we already talked a bit about the health checking, right, and the ability to send traffic across those backend systems and servers. But I want to take a moment to talk a little bit more about this traffic across multiple sites. So business critical applications need to be available regardless of any issues that arise, right? Whether that be a single system failure or an entire site failure. So having a disaster recovery site, a DR site, whether that's in a remote co-location or even hosted in a public cloud, we have a feature called Global Server Load Balancing, GSLB or GEO for short, that allows for automatic failover in the event a site goes offline. So users are automatically redirected to these remote sites where they can continue to connect and work with the application if there was a complete site failure. Now, some organizations are even leveraging global server load balancing, not just in a failover or disaster recovery situation, but in an active configuration where they can leverage the resources in multiple locations. So users that are located that are trying to connect to the application in North America, right? Connect to the application that's running in a data center in Texas, as an example, and users in Europe that are connecting to that application, they're going to connect to a data center that's located somewhere in Germany. So again, the proximity of where they're located. Now, on the performance side, we talked about the SSL or the TLS encryption and the load balancer's ability to decrypt the traffic to take those actions, such as identifying malicious content with the web application firewall or pre-authentication of users. But having the ability to send that traffic back to those backend systems unencrypted, it's going to take that encryption overhead away from those backend systems and therefore improve the overall performance, right? We'll do that encryption stuff on the load balancer where it's optimized to be done. Now, we always have those applications that will require that end-to-end encryption, right, for security reasons and things like that. So not a problem if we have to re-encrypt it in those situations as well. Now, the best way to help protect applications is to really provide a layered security approach, right? The more protective layers that we deploy, the more difficult we make it for these threat actors. In addition to like the web application firewall and the pre-authentication capabilities, I wanted to talk a bit about this zero trust approach that could be taken on the load balancer. So this is a function. There is a function on the load balancer called content rules, and these are primarily designed to allow for that manipulation, manipulation, if I can speak, of traffic. As an example, you're looking at the HTTP headers, right, and taking necessary actions based on information within the HTTP headers, right. With the use of these content rules, we've put together this zero trust access gateway functionality, right, which allows for policies to be created and deployed on the LoadMaster to provide this fine-grained control to what resources can be accessed, say from a particular user or users using these content rules. So this is zero trust principle of least privileged access, only giving access to what a user needs to get the job done. So if a user's account was compromised in some way, right, we can limit the impact, right, as an example. Now, there's many different use cases for this functionality, depending on the application being published. Again, something we can do to add that extra layer of protection. Now, I touched briefly on clouds when we were talking about the global server load balancing. So LoadMaster has the ability to run in the cloud, providing that same functionality we do for those on-premises deployments. So whether you're running in a hybrid or a multi-cloud environment, you can have the LoadMaster deployed for publishing those business critical applications. Those who are running Kubernetes, LoadMaster has ingress capabilities. Now, it operates in a couple of different modes as it pertains to publishing Kubernetes apps. Some really interesting things we can do there. We actually have a webinar next month that will be covering using LoadMaster as an ingress. So anyone that's interested should definitely keep an eye out for that. And then leveraging the load balancer as an API gateway, right? Using those content rules again. Organizations can provide a single point of access for multiple APIs, and then also provide that fine-grained access using that zero trust principle, right, of least privileged access. So again, to provide that extra bit of security too. So all of that, all those things, right? Lots of different value that the load balancer brings to application delivery, right? But organizations also need the ability to visualize the performance in uptime or downtime, right, of those applications. Being more proactive rather than reactive to situations with your application delivery. And that's where LoadMaster 360 comes into play. So let's go take a look at this. So Progress LoadMaster 360, this is a new SaaS offering that's going to deliver even more from those load masters that are running in the environment, right? Getting valuable insights to what's happening with your application delivery. We released this last year, October timeframe, and we're still, more features and functionality being added. And yeah, let's dive in and check it out. Now, there's six key features rather I want to highlight, and then we can go into each of them in a little bit more detail. The first is the usability and experience, right? With a new modern UI, optimized workflows, right? Drill down capabilities to get those insights that you need. As you said, as you can see here on the image, right, we went with the dark mode, right? Love dark mode. Again, to get that modern UI and just have those colors kind of pop out, so you can really get those visuals very, very quickly and easily. Certificate lifecycle. So expiring certificates, huge problem when it comes to application delivery. I read recently somewhere that they said 81% of organizations have experienced outages due to expired certificates. So having the insights to see all of the certificates used across all managed load masters will ensure this situation doesn't happen to you, right? Letting you know you have certificates expiring in 30 days so you can proactively renew that. Or all your certificates are valid for 90 days or more, right? So there's no action required. You can sleep well at night. With this, you can be that 19%, right? For being on top of what's happening with those certificates. Application analytics. So rich dashboards, right, to see the health and performance of load masters and those applications being published, and we'll dive into that a bit more. Configuration management. So this did not make the initial launch in October, but it's on the roadmap. So getting that visibility piece and insights was the first priority for LoadMaster 360, but we definitely understand the importance of configuration management, and that will be coming. We're working on that, where you can kind of do that all centralized from within LoadMaster 360. Incident management. So when issues do occur, right, getting this context-rich information about what is likely the cause, right, so you can address and resolve those issues faster, right, is what the incident center is all about. And last is the policy management and enforcement. So again, another feature that's on the roadmap, and this is all about compliance, drift detection, and access controls. And this is all again brought together under this one single pane of glass, which is LoadMaster 360. So to drill into each of these a little bit more, starting with the usability and experience, a lot of effort went into the user experience, right, and how those managing the load masters want and need to consume information. Just looking at this screenshot alone, right, very easy to consume the state of load masters and applications that are running in the environment, right, with these customizable dashboards, different types of widgets that are added to those dashboards. We have heat maps, clear indicators showing the health of different components of the application stack. You could see kind of mid-screen on the right, the healthy badge, right? That's the certificates that's saying that all the certificates in the environment are greater than 90 days from being expired, right? Again, that would turn yellow when it starts getting closer, and red, obviously, if there's a situation for an expiring certificate, as an example. Drilling even deeper into the health of the load masters, right? So here we'll see a snapshot of open incidents from the incident center, CPU and memory utilization, traffic metrics such as transactions per second. We have a historical view of the LoadMaster health and total connections over the last 7 days. So lots of information to get that full picture of how things are running from a LoadMaster perspective. So we have the same type of dashboards for application insights as well. So again, seeing the current application issues from the incident center, right? And application availability. Was there a loss of redundancy? Did we lose a single server or a complete outage? Did we lose all of the servers on a given day? Total application connections, right? And you can see here from that bottom graph, looking at it from the distribution of those connections to those backend systems, right? So over the last 7 days, we see we've had kind of a nice distribution of traffic across those two backend servers that are publishing the application. And we'll talk a little bit more about the RTT and SRT, the round trip time and server response time metrics, a little bit later in the presentation. Application security insights. I already mentioned the expiration of certificates, right? But if you're using the pre-authentication capabilities or Edge Security Pack to do single sign-on and things like that, you can visualize active sessions, successful and failed authentication attempts, current and blocked users. We have top clients in URIs. Really great stuff around the web application firewall coming that I'm going to share with you in just a couple slides as it pertains to the application security insights as well. So I know I kept mentioning this incident management, incident center, again, looking at all those dashboards and getting those, kind of summaries of these. So here's where all the incidents are raised with that context-rich information about the issue. We'll have a description of the incident, but also relevant configuration changes that might be the cause of the problem. Someone changed the health checking or something like that, right? And then all of a sudden the systems went down, right, because of that change. And you can just quickly see what changed and obviously roll back if that was the issue. We have related issues, previous occurrences, all the information you need to understand straight away what may be the cause of the issue, or really gathering just more information to help identify where the problem is. We also have communication channels to be alerted on these issues when they happen. So even those alerts are really customizable, right? To alert teams on just certain assets that they have ownership of, right? So we can also do it during certain times, right? Depending on who's on call, as an example. So we don't have everyone getting, all of these alerts, getting alert fatigue and ignoring real issues that are occurring in the environment and taking that immediate action on them, right? Instead of just ignoring them, and then that doesn't help anyone. So this is kind of like hot off the press here. Not yet released, but it's coming really soon. This first half of 2024, next couple months. We have the Web Application Firewall Insights. So we'll have new widgets, new information being displayed about what's happening from a web application firewall perspective. Easily identify false positives, right? Which is going to also include a web application firewall rule tuner to limit the amount of false positives you're getting from the web application firewall, and the ability to create custom rules with this tuner. All right, lots more on this. But as you can see from even the screenshot, we have great insights, events by location with a global map, We have the top 10 blocked requests from IP or URL. And we have top 10 rules that were triggered, things like that. Just everything, web application firewall related that's happening on the LoadMasters, brought into the LoadMaster 360 to visualize, and also to start having these pieces to help, again, tune it, which is going to really be key to get that web application firewall running nicely in the environments. So there's two more roadmap items I wanted to leave you with, and then we can actually get into some Q&A. If the first one here, if you remember, again, when I was on that progress portfolio slide at the start of the presentation, I mentioned that there were a few products that I was going to highlight as it pertains to visibility. And here's the first one. So user insights. With the ability to help understand the user experience and help address application performance issues. Progress Flowmon, right? This is a network performance monitoring solution. It does quite a bit more than that, around anomaly detection and things like that. But the network performance capabilities of Flowmon is going to help surface the traffic flows between the users and the applications on a per application basis, as well as an individual user flow basis as well. So surfacing like that round trip time, right, in the server response time to identify where there could be some performance issues that are slowing down access to the system. Right? And being able to zero in on those areas rather than looking all over. Is it the client side, is the server side, things like that. You'll be able to quickly visualize that and be able to pinpoint where the problem is and address it much more quickly. So again, this is coming in the first half of the year as well, after WAF Insights. So sometime in the summertime, we'll be seeing this released as part of LoadMaster 360. Lastly, here we're providing more visibility into those backend systems, right? The server health and performance of the actual real servers that are running the application. So this time, with the help from our What's Up Gold team, right? And they're all about infrastructure monitoring, getting the visibility into the CPU, the memory, network, and disk utilization, right? To help identify where those backend systems that are running the application may be the cause of the problem. And once again, we're looking at this in the summer of 2024 as well. So stay tuned for that release coming up. So I mean, lots of great stuff from the LoadMaster perspective, LoadMaster 360 solution. And as I said, there's much more to come here. So if we can just go ahead and open it up and see if we have any questions that came in, I can go ahead and get into those.
Hi, Kurt. I have a few questions here for you. Let's see. The first question that I have is, how is LoadMaster 360 licensed?
Oh, great question. So yeah, so it is a SaaS offering, as I mentioned, right? So the way that we're licensing LoadMaster 360 is by asset, right? And so you say, what's an asset? So an asset would be a LoadMaster or a LoadMaster pair, and an application. So the number of applications you have and the number of LoadMasters you have, you would kind of total those up, and you would pay for the number of assets. So we have, starting off, we have like a starter kit, which is like 10 assets, but then you can add more assets depending on the size of your environment and the amount of applications and LoadMasters you have running in them. And you can obviously expand that as well.
Okay.
Great question.
Let's see. Also, I have here, can LoadMaster run virtually in Hyper-V?
Yep. Okay. Another. We really didn't talk about virtualization environments. Talk about cloud and things like that. So, the LoadMaster has several form factors, right? So well, the short answer is yes, but maybe I'll give a little more color to it. The LoadMaster has we hardware appliances, different sizes for different kinds of throughput and transactions, different network interfaces to connect into your environments. And then we have a virtual one, right? So that works on all the major hypervisors, including Hyper-V, VMware, and so on. And then we have the cloud, right? So cloud you can deploy. We're in the Azure and AWS marketplace, so you can also deploy those virtual appliances directly in the cloud out of the marketplace. So yeah, the short answer is yes, we do run on Hyper-V.
Okay. And I have one final question for you. Can you enable pre-authentication? I can't even say that today. And zero trust together to provide some additional security for published applications.
Oh, so it's pre-authentication and zero
Yes,
trust?
zero
Yeah.
trust.
Yes. Yes, you absolutely can. You can actually, in addition to that, you can, and in some cases, the pre-authentication capabilities would be required to do some of the zero trust use cases, right? To identify who that user is, so we can authenticate them on the LoadMaster, and then understand who they are, and then set those policies based on that user. So we would need actually require to understand that. You can also enable the WAF, right, as another layer on top of that. So 100%. In some cases it's required. You wouldn't have to, but in some cases that would be required. Great question.
Perfect. I do not see any additional questions today. I would like to remind everyone that, again, you will receive an email containing a link to the recording of this webinar. And as Kurt mentioned earlier, there is a Kubernetes webinar coming up, so be on the lookout for that. That is taking place April 14th. And we would like to thank you all for joining us here today.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, wait, I see another question. A question just
great.
came in.
Oh.
Can you, so this is Alex Anthony. He wants to know, can you use it for an online and offline high availability system?
Online and offline.
Mhm.
I'm not sure you're talking about like active, passive. I'm not really sure the question. But I think the question is it more of an active, passive configuration? And the answer is you definitely can, where you can send all traffic to one system and have that as a failover even within a single site. I think that's where the question was going. But that's really that distribution. Is we have a lot of different ways to distribute that traffic across multiple backend systems. So if you have one that's online, and all traffic should be sent to it, and only send to that offline one if the online one goes offline, we can definitely do that with what we call weighted scheduling. So we would put a higher weight and send all traffic to one, and only if that system was offline would we send it to the other one. So hopefully that was the question, and I answered it correctly. But a lot of flexibility on how we distribute that traffic. So I think that and many more different scenarios we would be able to cover.
Perfect. Okay. I don't see any additional questions at this time.
Okay, well, great. If we go, should we give it a going once, going twice kind of thing? as a case,
Pretty much,
as a
sir.
case.
Yeah. I paused to make
Yeah,
sure, give people a chance.
excellent. Well, thanks. Yeah, thanks for the questions, and thanks for joining us today.
Yes, thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye-bye.